So I want to share with you some of the things that I've been kind of hearing behind the scenes as we kind of wrap up season one of the United Football League. So some key points I wanted to kind of talk about was first that the UFL is considering keeping the current 8-team status quo in 2025. Michigan Panthers and Houston Roughnecks may relocate to improve attendance, and the league is deciding between two potential dates, March 1st and March 29th. So of course the inaugural season at the UFL, plenty of action happening behind the scenes as we conclude. There's a lot of talk going on. There's meetings going on. So what I'm hearing right now is that it's going to be status quo, keeping the 8 teams in 2025. That's where everybody's leaning toward, keeping the same current roster of 8 teams with the league officially launching in January. With the new merged league between the XFL and USFL, it faced a compressed timeline for its first season. So UFL president and CEO Russ Brandon and other decision makers believe that 2025 will kind of be a redo, or the word I heard was mulligan, as far as what happens with 2025. So there just wasn't a lot of time. They want to give every location a chance, try to figure out what could work in Memphis, what could work in Michigan and some of these other locations, and give them a full year with the same staff, building those relationships with the fans, and everything just kind of builds, and they can have a full off season in 2025 with 2025 with no what teams are going to be there, all this kind of stuff that we've kind of dealt with last season. So I kind of understand, it makes sense. They also want to kind of show stability with the league so that there's 8 teams. We're not changing things around. We're not constantly shuffling. Yeah, they want to add, they would be great to add teams, but I think getting one season, they got this season. Everything looks good according to, especially with the ratings, and Fox, Redbird Capital are happy with things that are going on. So let's kind of keep it to status quo, build off of what we did in 2025. Now, what we did here, there could be some changes. Panthers, Roughnecks could be on the move. Michigan Panthers, I'm hearing, might be out at Ford Field, moving to somewhere like East Lansing or Ann Arbor, Michigan, kind of within that 100-mile radius of Detroit. Maybe trying to get towards like families and more of the kind of suburbs of the outside of the city of Detroit, might bring in some more fans. We don't know. I mean, Detroit Lions actually do well now because they have a good team. Michigan Panthers have a good team. Why is it not translating, or what they're figuring out? That's kind of the talk right now. And then the Roughnecks moving from Rice Stadium back to TD-ECU Stadium seems to be, they did better there in the past. I'm not sure. I've never been to either stadium, but it looks like they would probably be going back to TD-ECU Stadium. So there you have kind of what might change behind the scenes there. So, of course, with 2025 and only 8 teams, there means there's no expansion. That appears to be the way. Remember, now there was all this, they are budgeting for a 10-team format, but that's kind of as a contingency. We know the whole deal with the government, the United States government, and part of the merger, and people are like, what are you talking about? There's no such thing. Da, 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 da. Remember, Fox is a publicly traded company. So that makes the rules different versus a private sector entity like the XFL was. So that kind of made things kind of wonky. And that's why they kind of needed that merger approval. That why it took a little while for it to happen. And then it was, okay, in year one, you'll do 8 teams. In year two, you'll do 10. They're kind of saying, hey, well, we haven't even really had a year one, a full year one. Give us a full year one so that we could expand to 10 in 2026. I think if they have a full season and everything goes the way it did this season, then I think you definitely would see 2 new teams in 2026. There is a faction. There's one side of the coin that wants to keep it the status quo. There's the other side of the coin that wants to add teams, kind of getting the feeling that like maybe Fox is kind of more of the alpha dog in the room, is kind of like the vibe that I'm getting. And so like Fox wants Memphis to stay, so Memphis stays, and Fox kind of wants 8 teams. And maybe that's kind of why, I don't know, but it's just trying to parse all the different things that you're hearing and giving, kind of trying to figure out one cohesive thing. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting, but I'm still not sure, just take it for what it is. So likely, that is the current situation internally. That's what they're kind of looking at. But there will be a plan for 10 teams, but that really comes down to regulation. And I said boardroom discussions, but the current feeling is the same 8 in 2025. One other thing I've been hearing about is they're bouncing around start dates. Now it's not going to, it looks like no way there's been no chatter about going back to February. The 2 weekends we hear is maybe March 1st and maybe March 29th. Those are the kind of 2 dates they're leaning with, but leaning towards going back to March 29th. They've gotten some good numbers when they're not going up against stuff. Next year, there'll be familiarity with the league. I think every week that the league is on television, it's just more and more chance to connect with fans. It's kind of like when it's on television, people are watching, but they're not connecting with a team or a franchise just yet. That takes time. Now, what I have heard is that when it comes to the 8 teams and the March date, that kind of August, September timeframe is when they want to kind of lock things in. So you think about June ends, you've got July off, and then by the time end of August rolls around, they really kind of want to lock in, all right, here's our start date, and we are going with 8 teams or 10 teams, most likely 8 teams. That's kind of what those are the 2 dates that I keep hearing. One other thing that was kind of interesting that I'm hearing is that behind the scenes discussions revolving around budget cuts and this new, I guess they've kind of have preliminary budgets out there for like 8 and 10 teams is kind of what they're banting about. And some coaches have gotten wind or they've told coaches about what their salaries might look like and was not very happy. The head coaches, we're talking about the head coaches' pay, they were not happy. And some of them said that if the current status quo, what they're kind of talking about coaches pay, that they're not coming back. And that's not just, kind of the losing end of the spectrum coaches. Those are the kind of winning coaches. I don't know what the deal is with Wade Phillips or Bob Stoops as far as if they had 3-year contracts or 2-year contracts, but you kind of get an idea maybe who I'm talking about as people who might not be happy and might not want to come back next year. Now, again, this is all preliminary. There's agents involved and discussions and how the league finishes the season, what kind of money they make. But this was kind of put out there, and the head coaches were not happy because this didn't really impact some coaches. I don't know who has what contract, but some of the coaches are on a 2-year deal guaranteed. And that was a kind of way to entice them to come in. So they're on that second year of that 2-year guarantee. Next year, that 2-year guarantee is up, and they'll be out, and they'll take a pay cut. I think they already kind of got a pay cut when it came to their budget for the assistant coaches, and I think now it's potential that would be even another pay cut. That wouldn't make that's kind of, and again, I don't know. I don't want to. I get the feeling that that's kind of the Fox side of things. Remember, the Fox was as low as you can get to get the product, where a Redbird kind of spent too much money. And hopefully there can be some happy medium, because it would be a shame if you have, you want to show consistency in this league. And if you lose some coaches on the higher end on winning teams, that would be a bad sign for your league. So, come to an agreement, figure something out, and see where it goes from there. But that's kind of what I've been hearing about what some of these coaches not too happy with what the potential pay could be for them in 2025. Season ticket packages, fans have been waiting. Word on the street is that they're very close to announce the season ticket packages for next season, which is a great thing. Keep an eye out for Michigan potentially not being added on that list. That doesn't mean that Michigan is out. It just means that, again, there would be more credence to the idea that they might be having a different location in 2025. That's kind of that's the gist that I've been hearing. But season ticket packages will come out soon. I didn't hear anything as far as if they were going to raise the rates, lower the rate. I bet you they would keep it as a status quo for next season, just trying to get people in the door and more season ticket holders. I've talked to fans and they're like, well, why would I pay for season tickets when I can pay for cheaper seats? Then I've also, what I can get on a game day. There's credence to that. And maybe there's not much incentive for season ticket holders. At the same time, I've heard on the other spectrum that, hey, you're trying to support the league and, trying to give them revenue because you want the league to sustain itself. So, you're already getting a good deal. So just get your season tickets, and that's that. I know for me, I'm already talked about upgrading. I have friends that are involved that are excited to all kind of try to get tickets together on upgraded packages. And then when I tell them like what these season tickets are, they're just like blown away. And they all have a great time there in DC, Beer Snake, etc. So bringing people out to the Beer Snake for the last game of the season. So that's something to keep an eye on. Also, everyone behind the scenes, Fox, Redbird, all happy. And that's one of the things I wanted to hear was especially Redbird, because they were kind of like the money guys behind it. And if they're kind of out, then that would make me concerned. But they seem to be in. Fox seems to be in. You keep hearing about maybe a power struggle between Fox and Redbird. If that's just, I don't know, talk, something to keep in mind. But behind the scenes, everybody's really thrilled about this. The TV ratings are really good, and where the numbers that they're getting, they're really happy about that. I have been trying to ask around, and I'm not really getting a straight answer about what the deal is with Danny Garcia and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, whether they're involved or not. I don't really see anything on the outside. They are definitely not as involved as part of me was like, it was just like a passion project for them, and it was kind of all about them in the beginning, and that's not really what I wanted. It was more about the teams. That kind of dissipated as the season went on. And again, they have a drawing power, but The Rock is wrestling, Danny Garcia, I don't know what's going on at GSTQ and all this other stuff, but are they really involved, and how big are they involved? Or is it more about the relationships that they have, and that's what they bring to the table, rather than decision making about rules and uniforms, or what teams, that and other thing? I'm just not hearing that they're part of these discussions. So that's just something to keep in mind going forward, whether or not Rock and Danny Garcia are kind of part of this stuff. So overall, we're reaching the climax of the 2024 season. Things are popping behind the scenes. It's great that everybody feels that the league is on solid foundation. They're talking about a season 2. And I think if things can progress and season 1 is anywhere near season 2, if not better, then we're off to the races, and we could see this league around for 5 years. But definitely a strong showing. We'll see how the league season kind of culminates. What kind of numbers they get in St. Louis. Maybe if they can switch things around, and increase the attendance. It seems like 10,000 is kind of a good number for all the other tiers, 30,000 plus for St. Louis Battlehawks and about 12,000 for the DC Defenders. All seems to be like kind of where the level is. They would love to get these other franchises, instead of 5,000 or 6,000, to get them to that 10,000 range, and they could do that on the off season. And then we'll see how things go. But if you notice and you're watching the product, there's more sponsorships. They're not officially announced, but you're hearing more sponsorships. We also have the Monday Night Football or Friday Night Football that would be in March too, as well. That's another way to draw fans. I mean, the SmackDown Sports Friday night thing did really well. I think they're banking on college football, college basketball, and the UFL to bring in big numbers on a Friday night. So we will see. But all in all, everything is looking good. There are these little things, though, behind the scenes that you're hearing. And again, everything is always fluid. You never know. People change, opinions change. I'm just kind of giving you an update, kind of what's happening right now. So let me know, what do you think about the number of teams, the start dates, coaches' salaries? I mean, these are all kind of interesting things that we'll see how it plays out for the 2025 season. Make sure you like and subscribe, and let us know what you think in the comments.